Right, Brian, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you get into the hobby and then your journey from the hobby until the point you're at now.
Sure. Yeah. So let's see here. I'm 37. I work as a locksmith, and I've got a daughter. She's 6, and luckily not here at the moment. Let's see. As far as how I got into the hobby, it started in 2020. Luckily, about 3 weeks before the pandemic hit, I got my first little freshwater tank. Um, and within a year, I had 6 of them. And then I burned out on all of that, got rid of all of them. And then my brother-in-law actually has had reef tanks set up for the last probably 4 years or so. And I really liked what he was doing, so I set up my first little 20-gallon January of 21. Yep. Nope. I think January 22. Yep, that's right. And it was a little 20-gallon with a hang on the back. I had that up for about 8 months, I would say, so 7 months, until I bought what my 30-gallon that I have running now off marketplace and moved everything into it. And then I also just recently set up 20-gallon Fiji Cube that I also have running at the same time. I guess the most important thing is that I've had a really hard time figuring out how to get coral to grow or live or be happy or anything of the like. So that's it hasn't been an easy road so far, but I think it's maybe starting to turn around.
Did you say you had 6 aquariums before you went saltwater?
I did, yeah.
So it took off fast then.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I had nothing to do but sit in my house at the same time that I realized I liked aquariums. And then the government started handing out free money, and it turned into aquariums.
Good for the economy.
It was at least good for my local fish stores.
I thought it was hilarious. I'd see like right after those checks would go out, I'd see like big packages at my neighbors' houses, and I'd be like, "Ooh, I just paid for him to get a new grill, and I just paid for her to get a Penetron or whatever Peloton." And I just
Wait, Jim, what did you call it? Peditron.
I think he said Penetron.
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 What are they called? Do you got those in Scotland, Ron?
Knock that shit off.
Peloton?
Peloton. Yeah.
Yeah, you got those?
A Penetron is completely different. I think.
Is that actually a thing, or do I even want to know?
Have you ever watched It's Always Sunny? I think that is, I mean, it's the Ass Pounder 4000.
I'm very aroused right now.
I too am aroused.
I'm starting to swell up.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yep.
What season do I get to that?
That's end of season 12, early 13, it reappears. Sorry, Brian, this is supposed to be about your time.
I don't care.
Edit number 1.
Minute 5:37.
Yep.
All right. So I guess here's the 30 gallons, an innovative marine 30 longer. I don't know if you have structure to this, Ron, just redirect me because I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
No, basically, if you just do what you want to do. So if you want to go through livestock and tank and stuff to begin with, and then you want to go through your equipment and how you do things like that, it's up to you.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So in this 30 gallon here, okay, my camera's going to do that. I don't know how to get it to stop. Sorry about that.
Oh, you need to buy one of those new things that Russ said that covers all of your lenses.
Well, then the thing that I bought would be useless.
Well,
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Oh, Jesus. Somebody's got a soundboard, huh?
nope.
So, all right. So in here, I've got, you can see him here, an Atlantic Pygmy Angel, and that's a Darwin clown. And I'll call it a Darwin clown because it actually has lineage traced to wild-caught Darwin clowns.
You're covering the camera.
Well, I'm not actually. My lens attachment is. But maybe if I put it on the other lens, it'll work. Nope, sure won't. We'll just do it without the dang filter, I guess. All right, so there's every fish has a name, despite all the best advice to never name your fish. So that's Luna, the clownfish. The angelfish is Cusco. There's a Disney theme / a Harry Potter theme to all of it. And then up there you'll see a little Percula clownfish. His name is oh crap.
His name is Oh Crap.
Nope, that's not his name. Neville, that's it, Neville. And then he'll show his face eventually here at some point, but there is a yellow watchman in here named Nigel.
Is Neville Nemo's junkie brother?
There he is. Yeah, he might as well be.
Ron's never seen Harry Potter, so that's why he doesn't get who that is.
Oh yeah, that's fair. Luna and Neville end up being a couple in Harry Potter, Ron. So now you know the context on that. There's the watchman.
I just know there's a little ginger asshole in it.
Well, yeah, sure, that's fair.
Well, you can turn the heavy metal off and watch Harry Potter when you get a chance, right? You're allowed. You're allowed. You can do it.
It's okay. Allow yourself. So, coral wise in here, I've got 2 hammers / Euphyllia, whatever. I've got an orange hammer and just a regular old green branching hammer. I've got this Calistrea trumpet coral. It's not open up very well yet because the lights are first of all on early and haven't been on that long yet. I do have this Micromusa. It's not looking real hot at the moment. I have a Recordia here. And an SPS, I have 1 acro, tiny little frag. I've got this weird amalgamation of 4, I think those are supposed to be 4 Spire Digi frags, mostly because it started as 1 frag and I accidentally broke it into 4 pieces, so there it is. And then I have this tiny little blue Digi frag as well. I really wonder if I can get this filter to behave for me now. Nope.
Is it down to the distance you are from the tank and then it swaps lens?
Well, yeah, that's what it seems to be doing, but now it's not swapping over at all. So
Is it iPhone or?
yeah, it's an iPhone. I have an app that I can use when I take pictures that lets me choose which lens I'm on, but Zoom is not going to give me that kind of functionality, I'm sure. So
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the coral that's in here. All of it is something that I've struggled with a lot. Oh, there is a tiny little discosoma in there that found its way into the rock as well. Yeah, so I've had a really hard time with all these corals. Like when I bought this hammer, it was, well, you'll see the one that's in the 20 gallon here in a few minutes, but it was big. The polyps were really thick, and just over time, it's looked like you see it now where it just doesn't really look, I don't know, it doesn't look unhealthy. It just doesn't look healthy, at least in my opinion. And this one, same thing. This is, well, the first one that I set up was a 20 gallon and it moved into this tank. So there's some new scape with this. I put new sand in when I moved it over.
When was that?
That was August of 22.
So a little over a year ago.
Yep.
Ever tested for metals by chance?
What's that?
Have you ever tested for metals, like heavy metals, like an ICP?
Yeah, no, I've tried I actually tried last weekend to go because I know my LFS can test. They have HANA checkers for copper. But for some reason they were really sticklery about it. They would not test my metal for copper. They were, so no, it's on my list of things that I really want to test, but I have not gotten around to it
Where
yet.
I'm
I'm
going
hoping to
with
do
this
it.
is where I'm going with this is I'm wondering if so you bought that used, yeah? You said marketplace?
The tank, yeah.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if the prior owners used like that as a quarantine for fish or coral or something. And I mean, copper supposedly for the longest time I've known copper to supposedly I almost said infect, but bind to the silicone.
Oh, really? Okay.
Um, yeah. Sometimes you'll see tanks, it'll look like they have really, really blue silicone. It's actually that's copper or methylene blue, I think it is.
Oh,
So,
wow. Okay. From what I know, the guy that I bought it from, I think he was using it as a frag tank, but he may very well have been using it as a quarantine tank. I'm not sure. It was in pretty rough shape when I bought it. I learned the lesson
mm,
not to ever buy a fish tank at night on that day, because this back acrylic panel was completely separated from the glass panel. So I had to take it all out, scrape the silicone, clean it up, and then re-silicone that back panel in.
mm.
What a
Um,
fucking nightmare.
yeah, it wasn't the best experience, but it turned into, I mean, it could be a nice tank. If I could ever get it to work, it would be a nice aquarium.
So would you say the polyp extension on those Euphilia are what you would see like midday, or is it still like waking up for you?
They'll probably open up a little bit more than that, but not a lot.
And did they look like that when you bought them, or is that like
No.
receding to you?
So, and this one's still trying to open up yet too, but like if you look at this one over here in the Fiji
Oh
tube,
yeah.
see how thick those are?
Yeah.
That's what all of these looked like when I bought them. So I have no idea why everything looks emaciated in this tank. And even if you look at this Micromusa, I mean, it just doesn't look well, right? I can't figure out why.
Definitely got a little something going on there. It's like everything's surviving, but it's just slightly retracted.
Yeah, I mean, nothing looks good. Nothing's dying, but nothing looks happy or healthy.
It's, with it being every single coral in the system, yeah, it means it's not species specific. So it's probably going to be one thing that's doing it.
Yeah, I just wish I knew what it was. I have been, so I think the closest thing I have right now is that I think without meaning to, have been keeping a way too clean aquarium. Um, every time I test nutrients, they're super, super low. So I'm in the process right now of actually feeding this tank a ton more than I have. Like last weekend I bought this little algae sheet feeder and I put just like a strip of algae in there every day. Because it helps keep him off from potentially picking at corals because it gives him something else to pick at. And it also just means there's constant food source in there to be upping the nutrients. So like I tested nitrate and phosphate last night and I got 0.03 phosphate and like 5 nitrate. And that was after feeding of an absolute crap load all week, at least compared to what I had been doing before. So I think it could be that I've been too low on nutrients, and that's what we're trying to keep the nutrients up a little bit better now and see if that helps turn things around or not.
So has it
So
only
that's
been like
kinda-
that in the last week or so, or have they like were they 0-0 before and they're just coming up now, or are they typically around that range?
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, the margin of error on the phosphate tester, it's a HANA checker, is what it is. So like it always has tested on this tank, my phosphate is always tested somewhere between like 0.01 and 0.03. So it's always been super low. Occasionally I've accidentally caught it at 0. When I've done a lot of water changes or something else. But it's never been, it hasn't been, I've always been able to, generally speaking, I've been able to find detectable levels of both of those things, but not in any quantity. It's been at about 5 to 10 nitrate for its entire life and between 0.01 and 0.03 phosphate generally.
What are your other parameters?
So elk, last night I tested that. It was a 9 point something, 9.8, I think. Which this tank generates alkalinity for reasons I don't fully understand. So the water that I use Fritz RPM Blue, which comes out at around 8 usually when I mix it. And this is sitting up close to 10. It was over 10 at one point, but I've upped the water change schedule to try and keep it in line. So the best thing I can come up with on that is that there's pockets of low pH that are dissolving little bits of sand and rock.
Do you dose anything?
I've been dosing some nitrate and phosphate to try and keep up on it, but no, every time I test, like I don't test calcium or magnesium often, but when I do, I've never caught them not fine. And so I've been dosing some nitrate and phosphate to try and get those up, but other than that, no, I water change 5 gallons a week on this, and that's all I do.
And the LPS, is it more that they're retracted or are they kind of getting whitish?
I don't think they look white. I mean, they just look small. I mean, they look emaciated. You know what I mean? Like they just look. Like that's not it holding back. Like that's, as far as I can tell, for its current state of health, that is its nearly its full extension.
That shit ain't right.
Yes, thank you to the soundboard band.
You got to be careful with just running, maybe bright lights and then alk higher. It's kind of like mashing the gas pedal. So if you don't have nutrients, can create a little bit of problems. But obviously, you don't know definitively one way or the other what it is.
Well, and I had Russell's par meter a few months back now, and I tested, and the lights were really, really low in this tank. So I've been in the process of turning them up really slowly. So I don't think that it's been an overlighting issue, because from what I could tell, the lights were too low for pretty much everything in the tank. But now they're probably twice the intensity now that they were back then. So I would expect they at least have a healthy amount of light at this point, but I'm gonna keep turning them up.
What are you using for your source water?
I'll show you. I have an RODI machine, so I just run it right off there. It's a stage 4. I replaced all the filters except for the membrane back in June. And I mean, it comes out of the membrane at like 4 TDS and then comes out of the line at 0 every time. So as far as I can tell, the source water is good.
Well, if your other tanks are doing good,
Yeah.
similar corals, I don't think that.
Yeah, and so that's kind of been weird. I have actually started having some issues. So this is the Fiji Cube. It's a 20-gallon peninsula. And I set this up in June of this year. It's actually been doing really, really well for me. It's still trying to wake up, but and so I've got this Aurora Goby in here. He's a pretty good looking guy. And then I have this Talbot Stamp. Those are the only fish in there. There is
What are their names?
So that's Noodle, just because he's long and skinny. And then that is Rapunzel.
So have you called it noodle because it looks like a noodle, or specifically a pool noodle?
No, just Noodle because it's long and skinny and looks like a noodle.
It does look like a pool noodle.
That's fine. We can give him a first name. We can give him a first name Pool, last name Noodle.
Yeah.
He look like a fish.
And then back there, I've got a little cleaner shrimp back there too. So, and this thing's been going bonkers since I set it up. I just recently, in the last week or so, started to have issues with some of these corals.
Can I check, Brian?
But I mean,
do you use a algae magnet? See how you've got the Julian Sprung one there in that cube?
Yes, I do have that in there.
Do you have that in the other tank?
I don't. Well, I used to use that in that tank, but it hasn't been in there in quite a while. I now use this. I hadn't fed it I have some Julian Sprung sea veggies up there, so I hadn't been feeding that in this tank for a while, and so I just hadn't been using either.
The only reason I asked is I had one of those veggie mags, and the magnet completely corroded and crumbled and was leaching into the tank for months and months. I don't leave anything that I can take out the tank in the tank anymore. I remove it as soon as the algae's finished being consumed. I was just checking that you've not got a magnet issue.
Get the fuck out my face with that shit. No, 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 no.
Oh yeah, and I remember seeing that from you about that, and I tried to check this one. I couldn't see any issues with it. I tried real hard not to leave it in. I actually just put that in there this morning. Um, so it's not in there permanently. But yeah, so let's see here. So that's the fish in here. I do have, so I've got that's a branching green star polyp. There's a Ricordia over there that has never really settled in, has never really looked happy like the other one that I have. That is a Frag that has been unhappy for a little while now, trying to figure out why. And then I have Jack-o'-lantern lepto that's kind of growing like a weed in there. For how long this has been set up, it's puddled out all the way around. There's two little pieces on there.
Hamburgers, the cornerstone of any nutritious breakfast.
I actually just moved that. It was, if you see that white spot there,
Oh yeah,
that's
just
where it
cave.
was mounted previously, and I thought maybe it was getting overlit, so I pulled it off, cleaned it up really well, and then mounted it down here. But it hasn't been there very long for him to be picking on it. I suppose it's possible. He doesn't usually go up in the water column unless I'm feeding, so I'd be surprised if he went up there to bug it. But there's always a chance. So then, and this is the other weird coral issue that I suddenly have had, is this Zoa has started extending its stalks out for some reason that I can't figure out. So recently I moved this from the 30 gallon actually, and it was not doing well in there. But after I moved it, it really colored up really well again. And then I had it in the other tank for like a year and a half, and it never spit out a new polyp. And then after it's been in here for about 2 months, it's got like 8 polyps coming out. So, I mean, it just seems obvious to me, at least, that there's something going on with the other tank that I can't figure out. But I also have no idea why this has started extending its polyps like this. They were tight to the rock before, and I haven't changed anything. No explanation as to what.
Yeah, it's normally a sign that it needs more light. I mean, I assume.
When you're
And
saying
I
tight to
guess
the
the
rock,
only, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I haven't changed the light, and they were tight to the rock 2 weeks ago. So I don't understand why they would just randomly start doing that.
And how long were they, like, when you're saying tight to the rock, is that like just after introduction and they've slowly elongated, or have they been like tight for months and then just recently started extending?
Yeah, so I mean, I put it in there. Let's say I put it in there 2 months ago. They were tight to the rock until a week and a half ago.
Okay. And did you by chance have that same weird alkalinity issue in this tank as well?
No, I haven't. I tested the alk on this one last night as well, and it was at about 7.6.
Okay.
That was right before I did a water change, so I didn't dose anything into it. I'm thinking about starting to do really small doses of Alpha-Reef in this tank, because I finally actually have a tank that uses resources. So I might actually have to figure out how to dose something for the first time in my life. But yeah, same story on this tank. I don't dose anything other than trying to keep nutrients up, and I make 8 gallons every weekend of fresh salt water, and then I change 5 in the 30 and 3 in this tank. But like when I got this hammer here, or what do you want to call it, this Euphilia, it was a single polyp that's been in there since shortly after I started the tank, and you can't see it very well right now because it's still trying to open up, but that polyp is splitting in two. It's growing. It's doing really well. It looks healthy. So yeah, I don't even understand. I guess I've never heard about copper leaching into silicone. Not that I doubt that it's very possible, but it feels like there's something like that that's just fundamentally wrong with this tank, and I can't figure anything out about it.
Well, what kind of silicone did you use to silicone the back in?
I used Seachem's aquarium silicone.
Okay.
Now, to be fair, it's possible you could make an argument that I did not wait long enough to refill it. I don't
Yeah,
remember
that would have
exactly
gone.
how long I waited.
That would have settled in by now.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I bought what I could tell was the best silicone I could use, or at least
Yeah,
a good silicone to use.
I totally agree with what Mr. Dubb said with it leaching into silicon. I had a 100-liter quarantine years ago. It was made by an Italian company called Ciano. And after I'd used it as a quarantine tank for about a year, I then sold it. And when I drained it and I then looked at it really closely, all of the silicon seals were totally blue.
Really?
Yeah, like permanently stained blue. However, I assume if there was a staining of blue, there was probably still some sort of chemical connected to it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
It's just it's a good idea that Mr. Dubb mentioned.
So for him to remedy that, let's say it is copper or it is something like that. Is that something as easy as just like throwing copper in for like months and months and months and let it slowly weed out, or is it better for him just to replace the tank?
I wouldn't waste any time with it. If I found out that my silicon was infected with copper, that it'd be a complete and utter waste of time trying to turn it into a reef tank, in my opinion. I might be wrong there.
I would think that you can try to run carbon and filter pads and try and suck it out, but all you're going to be doing is sucking out what continues to leach in.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you could run Cooper's Orb permanently,
Yeah.
basically.
Are you handy, Brian? Like, could you, are you handy? Could you redo this whole tank? Like with silicone,
made
like
this.
redid the back?
Oh, I don't know. I'm nervous about trying to reseal tanks, to be fair. And there's a lot of different pieces and parts to reglue. Like you've got all these back chambers that would have to all get
Could you
taken
just
apart.
cover over the potentially copper soaked silicon? Just literally put a fresh bead along all major areas.
I don't know why that wouldn't work.
Yeah, because the inside is just superficial, right? As far as silicone goes, it's the
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, the part that matters is just that tiny little bit between the panes. You know what I mean?
Man, you've been struggling with this for a while. I would really just run an ICP.
Yeah. Yeah,
Just
I don't disagree.
I mean, just see what you find out. It's been too long and too frustrating.
I agree. I would definitely get an ICP off in the post. I know they cost money and it's not ideal.
Yeah,
on that,
no, I
Brian,
mean, I
your
will.
tank looks great. Like there's not
Thank you.
is that covered in algae? Like I can tell you put a lot of care into it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, I work really hard on these things. They're basically the only thing I do for enjoyment. So, and that's, I think, what's been frustrating about it, just to be completely honest. It's just like I'm trying so damn hard at these things. I mean, like we were talking about on my one for repeat, Jim. It's like I'm tired of trying this damn hard for this stuff to just not work. Like, what the hell?
That's what
and
I'm
then
saying.
I guess it was like a gut punch. Then when I started this one, it's just like swimming along perfectly. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess it's not me. That's nice.
Get that tank to fuck, Brian, and get a different one. Doesn't need to cost the earth. Just get it to fuck. Throw it out in the yard right now.
Put it on the forklift.
It's just you can salvage. Like if you needed to, you could save all those coral in there, put them in another tank. You know, nurse them back to health until you figure out what's going on in this one.
Well, and one other thing on this green hammer, right? So when after I set the 20 gallon up and I started to see things looking really good in there, I actually took that hammer out and put it in the 20 gallon for probably a month or so. And I mean, it bounced right back. It looked perfect. And so I'm like, okay, I think I have things figured out over in the 30 gallon. I'm going to put it back in there. And it looked good for another 2.5 weeks in here, and then slowly just returned back to its shitty state. You see it in now.
Have you checked all your pumps for magnets and things like that? And also, have you checked for stray voltage?
Okay, so yes, I've checked everything. I cannot find anything that looks like it's leaching. I even actually, that algae clip that we were just talking about a little bit ago, I even took that and put it in just a cup of RODI water for like a week and just let it sit there to see if it turned color at all. And it was crystal clear the whole time. So I've checked everything. I can't find anything leaking. or leaching, I should say. And so stray voltage is a whole nother topic though. And this might be a problem with my multimeter, but I catch a fair amount of stray voltage in both of my tanks. I've checked everything as far as I can tell the house is properly grounded, but I've got like 40, 30, between 30 and 40 quote unquote stray volts in here.
Okay.
What about the other one?
It's the same. It's a little less because it's got less equipment in it. I mean, and I've checked everything. It goes up slightly with each piece and goes down slightly when I turn each piece off. There's no one thing. There's definitely like the heater contributes more than the rest, but I've never gotten a nick. I mean, I've got cuts all over my hands all the time. I've never gotten a nick putting my hand in there. As far as I can tell, there's no current. There's no electrical charge, but there's voltage in there.
Do you have like spare heaters you could try like swapping out, or power heads that you could try switching just to see if there's like I know you said that they kind of scale down with each device, but like are they just maybe because they're needing replacing? Or
I mean, they all came brand new, so none of them are more than a year and 7, 8 months old.
right.
But I don't really have a ton of extra equipment hanging around. I do have some different return pumps that I could potentially swap in there, but I don't know. I mean, like everything that I've been able to test or look at or try has yielded absolutely no results. I even tried plugging both the tanks into a different circuit on my house. I got exactly the same results.
How many volts did you say?
It's between 30 and 40. I can't remember exactly.
I did a quick Google search. It says, I guess between 0 and 30 is okay.
Okay.
But I'm not
Hey,
a
Brian,
professional.
I have
I
a
just
question.
Googled.
Yeah.
So when you were turning stuff off, was it mostly your pumps that were having stray voltage, or was it like heaters and stuff as well?
It was a little bit of everything.
Gotcha.
So like,
Because I know I was just going through this with my tank, and I was reading it says that the ceramic magnets can actually cause induced voltage from them spinning
yes.
and like the friction, which I know that's a little different. I actually just put a grounding probe in mine just to kind of eliminate it, which I know is also kind of like hit or miss with what people say. But my understanding is from like the spinning, that's not as like damaging as actual like straight current. Because if it was like actual straight current, like an exposed wire or something, you'd see a lot more voltage per se.
Yes. Yeah, and so I did a deep dive on this on whatever you can find on the internet when I first discovered it a while back. And as far as I can tell, everything that I could read basically said like, yeah, you can have induced voltage, especially from DC equipment. Right? DC
Yeah,
is
that's
the one
kind of
that
what
is
I was
usually
getting as
controllable.
well when I was looking it up.
Yeah, and then they also said basically if you have voltage but you test for current and have none, you don't really have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so like whenever I've tested current, I get dead nothing, absolutely zero. So as far as
because
I
I
can
know when
tell,
I was diving into it, I have a power head and a pump that are causing that, and I get about 30 volts when I test. But like I said, I just put a grounding probe in recently just to kind of, have it eliminated, which I know people say, like, depending on where the equipment is, that can actually cause it to flow through the tank. But I kind of have like an all-in-one, so I put the grounding probe in the back compartment, so it should, in theory, take the voltage right from the pump in that back chamber and take it right out,
Yeah. One of the things that I read on that too is that basically if you put a grounding probe in your tank, you're ensuring that you're going to shock your fish if they pass basically between the equipment and the grounding probe. So like I probably will eventually put one in. As far as I can tell, there isn't actually a problem with the current that's in or the voltage that's in there. I mean,
Yeah, I know, like, from an electrical standpoint, like 24 to 40 volts won't actually necessarily shock you, but they say it can cause stress in like more sensitive animals. The reason I dove into this was I was having some issues with some fish showing weird behaviors, and I tested and I was like, all right, maybe that's what it is. Since I put the grounding probe in, a lot of those weird behaviors have stopped. So that might be something to look into.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No, that probably just bumped buying a grounding probe up on my to-do list, but
You even just get whenever you replace your heaters, just get a titanium heater.
oh, does that serve the same purpose?
Oh, he loves a fucking heater.
Yeah.
right, fair enough.
Just
Yeah.
anecdotally, really quick. I know like the Skin Man guy in our Discord group, he was having issues with really high alk. But once he was able to sort that out, I know there's something to do with like if you have really like 9, 10 plus with ultra low nutrients, that it can be an issue for coral. It's above my pay grade to understand what the fuck that means, but I know he was able to bring his alk down to about 8, and that kind of made his corals come back because he was running pretty low nutrients. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know Randy Holmes Farley has like some articles about alk and nutrients. I haven't read them, but I'm sure some of the guys in here have.
Yeah, I really wish I had the patience to read his articles. I absolutely do not. Yeah, and I would love to get the alk down. I mean, I don't know. So like 2 weeks ago, I did a 16-gallon water change on this tank, and then I've done 5 gallons last weekend and this weekend. So I'm basically over the course of 3 weeks, I've replaced all the water in this tank, and it's still sitting in the. I mean, I haven't tested it today, but I'm sure it's still in the 9s.
What are you using to test? Like, do you believe that it potentially could be a testing error, and then maybe your alk is not actually 10?
So I use a Red Sea titration test, the Alkalinity Pro Red Sea test. And I have HANA checkers for it, and everything reads in a relatively similar range, at least close enough that I trust the general proximity of the numbers that I'm getting.
And just to piggyback off what Jordan said, when I had first gotten a hobby, I was doing like massive water changes with reef crystals. So it was spiking my alk and keeping my nutrients super suppressed. And my LPS, I only had like hammer, like pretty much just like you did, like GSP hammers, candy cane. And they did kind of have that same kind of pale retracted. I'm not saying that's what it is, but if you find out it's not heavy metals, I definitely would start working that direction of bringing alk down and stabilizing nutrients.
Sure. Yeah, fair enough. And I mean, that's kind of the goal right now anyway, is to be working on trying to hopefully get alkalinity better under control and get the nutrients up. I mean, I'm hoping to run, I mean, at least compared to where my nutrients have been, I'm trying to get up to pretty high nutrient levels.
What's your pH, Brian?
I don't test it very often. It's usually between 7.8 and 8.2.
Do you have plenty of oxygen kind of like flowing in there? I mean, you said you live in a trailer now.
Yeah.
Forgive me. What is a trailer? A trailer to me is a caravan. But are you living in like a permanent caravan? Is it bolted to the ground with stuff?
Yeah, so an American trailer park, Ron, is long tubular pre-manufactured housing that can technically be rolled around on wheels if you take the time to put the axles on it and hook it up to a truck.
Oh, okay. So you can hook it up to something and pull it away.
You could. I mean, in theory, it's not like, I mean, it's so, I mean, it's a 1,200 square foot home. It's not like a tiny little trailer.
Yeah, Ron, it's on a foundation, and I mean, it's on a metal frame, but it's not like a caravan where it's got wheels and axles under it where you can just hitch up to it and pull it off.
Right. So you've
like
not
to move them. It's on like a flatbed. It's like what, 50 feet long, Brian?
Oh, more than that. I mean, I think this one's like 120 feet long.
Right. Hold on.
Are you a double wide or a single wide?
Single wide.
Yeah, probably 14 to 15 feet wide.
Your trailer is twice the square footage of my fucking house.
Oh, welcome to America.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think I get them. Like, Ron, are you thinking of like the little caravan from all the scenes in Snatch?
Yes.
Yeah, totally wrong ballpark. It's a completely separate thing.
Fuck. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, Ron, it's pre-manufactured housing, right? Like technically, it moves by them attaching axles to the bottom of it and pulling it with a truck to where it's going to end up being set up permanently. So it's referred to as a trailer in a trailer park, but it's pre-manufactured housing.
But do you own it in that? If how does this work then? So if you just wanted to live somewhere else, could you just have that moved, or do you just sell it and buy another one?
I mean, you could, yeah. If you wanted to take it to a different park, yeah, you can pay to have them come back and put the axles back on it, put it down on the ground, and tow it to a new park. I mean, it's not cheap. It's not as easy as just like hooking up a camper and pulling it down the road. It might be easier to just sell it and buy one in a different park somewhere.
My apologies. Back to your tank tour.
No, it's okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to discuss housing.
I think the question was about pH.
Yes, that is correct.
Portable housing, pH.
Exactly. So okay, so I don't know my pH. It's generally somewhere in that safe range at least. As far as oxygenation, so I do have over on my skimmer here, you'll see that blue line. It's the airline. It's really long because at one point or another, I used to just crack this window and put it out there so I could get fresh air. I stopped doing it because I think I don't have a filter for the line, and they kept clogging up the air inlet for the skimmer. So I'd probably start doing it again if I could find a filter for the end of that little piece of airline. But so for right now, it's just running off it.
I used a filter for an airline. You can just take like an old prescription pill package and put some cotton in it.
Okay. Okay. Man, I can do that today.
Also, if you didn't want to get like a pH meter for like $10 or so on Amazon, they sell like something that will check like humidity and CO2, which could be a good metric. Yeah. Just to know, I mean, obviously if you have multiple tanks, it'll just let you know like the ambient CO2 in the house, so you know whether or not you need to open a window or something.
Yeah, sure. And I try to open windows as often as I can because I know I'm trying to keep fresh air in here. But I don't know. I don't have a lot of the fancy gadgets that most people have to keep an eye on things like pH and.
Yeah, it's not always useful. I mean, it's good info to have, but it's not, by far not a necessity. Like It's not something I would rush out and worry about.
Although it's something new reefers are aiming for now because of the wonderful content creators.
Yeah,
you reefers, you've got like 2 tridents and all the bells and whistles there, Ron.
Yeah, I mean, new reefers. It's you've got Mr. Meckley at ACI, very much so pushing pH, over alk.
Yeah, no, I mean that's his whole mantra is basically target a pH as opposed to an alkalinity.
So Brian, how do we get you to do a ICP test?
I will do an ICP test. I mean, if I can be completely honest with you, I can't afford one right now.
Let's have a whip round. Let's have a whip round.
So I'm going to do an ICP test. That is not the problem. I'm just trying to get to that point.
Right. So save yourself the money on the ICP and get that tank to fuck.
Yeah, but then I have to replace the tank, Ron.
Yeah, but
that is more expensive than an ICP test.
No. But you shut it down. You just flog it to somebody for a crazy amount of money, and then you just buy a new tank. Don't think of it as a massive burden. It's fine.
I love this idea, Ron. My budget is not.
So here's another question for you guys while you're here. If let's say that it is leaching from the silicone, right? Obviously this is all like theoretical. Does that mean his rock's now contaminated and he's gonna have to source new rock?
None of that rock is gonna go anywhere new. It's all going in the garbage.
Yeah,
if I take this tank down, I'm just pitching it all.
Yeah.
If you had a trash can, you could cycle it for like a year and try to soak some of that copper out, but there's always going to be trace amounts, right?
Yeah, it's not worth. So let's see here. About a year ago, I picked up for like $400. I bought this whole entire like lot of aquarium stuff from a guy that I work with, and with it, I got this tub of probably 150 to 200 pounds of rock. So I've got rock to rework the scape. I don't have to stress over that. I'll just throw it all away. and build myself a new scape.
I do love the taste of a good burger.
I was going to say, I know this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I actually talked to Zach B about this a while ago because I picked up some used rock, and he was saying he's used rock from his like treatment tanks that he's treated with copper through, I think it's called like Cooper's Orb in there, and tested for copper after, I don't know how long, a couple months or so, was able to get it down to 0 and then stop the Cooper's Orb and still didn't have issues. Because I know that's a big thing people talk about, like quarantine tank rocks and stuff. And he kind of assured me that he's done it multiple times with all his tanks in his shop and everything and hasn't had an issue. I don't know if that's because of the sheer water volume he has with probably small amount of rocks, but I know I've talked to him about that before.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, my favorite part is building escapes, so I don't really want to reuse this one if I'm going to redo a tank.
I've never personally experienced it, but I remember people saying like once you dose copper in a tank, like it's in the silicone. Like I remember seeing pictures of people like way overdoing it with like green ass silicone seams.
Jeez.
But I mean,
I guess I didn't look at
there's
them that
copper
carefully.
in natural seawater, right? It's not like it's 0.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, copper is necessary for coral to live. They actually use it for their respiratory process, but it becomes toxic really quickly.
Yeah,
I guess
there's copper and alpha reef.
I guess frugally just pressure LFS. I mean, if they offer a copper test, just walk in there with like a $5 or something. Like, yo, do this copper test right now. I need to know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was really bummed because, like, I mean, I've been one of their biggest fans for a long time, so I was a little irritated when I walked in there and directly asked them to test for copper, and they were like, "Nah, we don't think it's copper." I was like, "Well, I kind of don't like you as much as I did when I walked in."
Hold
here.
on.
Yeah, you're the
Whose
keeper.
tank is it? Seriously, whose fucking tank is it? No, I don't.
Well, it's their copper test.
Oh,
I mean, it's their copper test, to be fair. But
yeah, but are you not paying for that test?
no, I mean, I would have if they'd asked me to, but no, that's not the pretense that I walked in there under because they advertise that they'll test your water for free if you bring it in.
It sounds like they were just being lazy. Not that they didn't think it. I don't think they wanted to do the test.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
You should just take it from them. Just I'll do it myself.
Well, I was really bummed because my brother-in-law actually has a Hannah checker for copper, and I borrowed it from him a week and a half ago, and I brought it home and opened it up, and he has no reagents left. I was like, oh, damn it.
Oh, yo, go to the shop, pay for if they have the same test kit. Just buy like 1 sachet of reagent from them, or 2, I guess,
yeah, that's a good
just
point.
in case. That might be worth it.
Sure.
Maybe just $1 or 2.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because I mean, once you know there's no metals in there, I'm not sure if there's other metals that can cause issues or where they'd be from, but that would be a big, step forward in figuring out what it could be.
Well, I mean, obviously, if it's copper, it could be leaching from the previous setups of the tank. But if it's any other metal, then it's got to be either equipment or source water related.
So is copper worse for corals or for inverts?
I think it's pretty equally bad.
It's yeah.
Like I didn't know.
I've always been told. Sorry, go ahead.
Like, is there a canary in the coal mine? Like, if hermits can live in there, cool. The copper's gone to a point where it won't impact stuff.
Well, and that's so part of my thought
That's
process
a good
too. Is
question.
I have had a lot of snails dying in this tank, but I think that actually might be because the nutrients have been so low and there's basically no algae in the damn tank.
Dying over weeks or like dying in days?
I guess in the last 2 weeks, I probably have had 2 to 3 weeks. I've probably had 3 or 4 snails die.
So they die over like a length of time, not necessarily like they're being shocked.
Oh yeah, correct. Yeah, they don't just like fall dead. They've been.
And do you normally have a lot of algae and stuff growing on the glass and on the rock? Maybe even just like film algae, not necessarily, nuisance or unsightly stuff.
I do get some film algae on the back wall and on the glass and stuff. I just cleaned the glass up this morning, but I do get a fair amount. I did notice that after I started, like this week, I've had a lot more algae activity in that tank than I've had in the last while because I started feeding a lot more and I even put I dosed some phosphate in there.
Yeah, I was at your last tank tour. I want this tank to do so well. I'm pulling for you, man.
Dude, I've been pulling for this tank for a long time. I wish it would fucking work. I just don't. Yeah. Again, I mean,
so whatever happens, it's not your effort. Like, you're still a great hobbyist. It's just something's going on with this tank.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just wish I could figure out what it is. I mean, like, so I'm really, I guess me personally, I hate not being able to figure out the answer to a problem, right? So this has just been over a year of frustration trying to figure this tank out.
If you can unlock some of these locked keys and stuff, I think you can unlock the success of this tank, man.
Yeah, we'll figure it out someday. Or like, I mean, I gotta be honest with you. Like, I was talking with Zach like a week ago or a couple weeks ago, and we were at the same point where I was like, I need to just fucking throw this thing in the garbage because just something's wrong with it. I don't know what it is. Is it worth it to even find the answer? I don't know. Like, if I had a tank, I actually have a 90-gallon cube sitting in a storage unit right now that I guess I technically could set up, but I don't even know if this house can support it. And I have
so
no
you
idea
said you're going to do an ICP. Have you thought about what's the bacterial one?
I did an aquabiomics earlier this year on the advice of Mike B. He helped me out a bunch. We did find a coral pathogen in there, and we treated for it. Everything seemed to come back around. I guess it's also possible that this could still be a remnant of the bacterial problem that I had. I have no idea. Like I said, I'm probably at a point where the best thing for me to do is just yes, what Ron said. Get it to fuck, I believe is how I phrased it.
I'm team like don't restart it, try to fix the problem. Honestly, like I think when you have 14 months or whatever into a tank, it's gonna go gangbusters once you fix it. It's just finding what that issue is, right?
Don't be ridiculous. Yeah, and I think one of the things that makes me at least a little more confident that it's not a bacterial problem is that the couple corals that I did move from here into the other tank came right back and looked fantastic. And I feel like if they were infected with something, then the problem would just carry right over.
So you said you've got another tank just chilling, Brian,
Well, I mean, it's not all as glamorous as it sounds. I have a 90-gallon cube. It's a Marine Land. And first of all, from what I read online a little bit ago, they're one of the most notorious failure tanks that was ever made. So I don't really want to set that tank up.
That is not a good start.
So, yeah, I mean, I got it because it came with a package that I bought. I really didn't even want the tank, but it came with everything else. So I took it. So I have that cube. And I don't really know that I'll ever do anything with it. I wouldn't mind actually cutting it down someday in the future and turning it into just like a short frag tank cube. But anyway, yeah, I don't think that's the tank I want to use.
So is there no way you can turn that tank you have right now into some cash?
What, the 30-gallon?
Yeah,
I mean, if I took it down, I'm sure I could get $100 for it, $150 for it.
Okay, and what's the secondhand market like around you for picking up something that you'd be happy with to replace it with?
For what I would be looking for, I'd probably be looking for somewhere in the range of $300 to $400.
Okay, and what about prostitution?
Not on the table yet.
Just dangle it out the window. Something might happen. Wait for the warmer weather. What did you say, Jordan?
I said to start selling your farts in a jar.
Wait, there's people that pay for that?
Yes.
How am I just now learning of this?
Bags full of farts to to somebody.
I got a
market
bag.
in Canada. Yeah, bathwater, Zach said in the chat.
Oh, yeah, there we go. I'm sure everybody wants my bathwater for sure.
Just catfish some guys online.
It's a pretty grandiose plan just to get a new aquarium.
I'm also kind of stuck on the fact that you say your alkalinity rises on its own. Like, that's interesting. I've never seen that.
Well, secret wife is dosing alkalinity every night when he's asleep. He just hasn't worked out yet.
If she knew what that was, I might believe you.
So you said you think it's like undissolved pH pockets, you said? Or how did you phrase it?
So, yeah, I read some articles. One involved Randy Holmes Farley talking about how there's basically two ways in which you can have alkalinity go up on its own in an aquarium. One is a really rare bacterial biological process that converts nitrate into alkalinity. Everybody that I've talked to said that's probably not happening in your aquarium. The other one would be basically low pH pockets dissolving either parts of your sand or rock, which in theory is actually something that is happening in everybody's aquarium. It's just that usually the demand of the corals outstrips that. So then it's using whatever's being created, quote unquote, in your tank, as well as then you're having to dose additional. So I think in theory, the reason mine's going up on its own is that there isn't enough consumption happening in the tank to even use up whatever's being created in the tank on its own. And obviously then I'm not having to supplement any on top of that.
So you just need more coral.
I mean, I think I need coral to grow.
Nah, you just need like 10 times the coral and then they'll start soaking up that alk, no problem.
I see.
So the tank's been up over a year. What about coralline? You got coralline in there?
I do, and actually it just kind of picked up in the last month or so. I don't know if you'll be able to
bring down some of that alkalinity.
Yeah, so there's a couple of decent patches that are coming out. You can see it a lot better with the lights off because I've used some of this life rock. It's easier to see the actual coral that's growing with the lights off, but it's actually starting to cover a good chunk of the rocks. I mean, to give it another little bit here, I think it'll be a pretty substantial amount, but it still is to the point where alkalinity is high. I mean, even yesterday, like I said, I tested it, and that was a week after water change, and it was close to 10.
Well, and just a heads up, when if you do go to dose off reef in your other smaller tank, just remember that the calcium formate as it breaks down is like a form of carbon dosing, so it will drive down nutrients, and obviously in a smaller system, something you gotta be aware of.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, mine went from 2 ppm to 1 ppm, and then over time it went back up to 2 again when I started Alpha Reef. I don't know if that is relatable to anybody, but
yeah, that has effect in my tank.
Yeah, and we'll see. There's no reason to start dosing anything yet. Nothing is struggling, so I probably won't start doing anything just yet, but
man, aren't there substrates that like advertise like aragonite or something that they will produce some trace amount of alkalinity? I don't know if that's just talking out of my ass, but
I think most marketed reef sands are aragonite. They have at least some amount of aragonite in them because it's meant to be, I think, a pH buffer so that if your pH is going too low, it basically, yes, it dissolves and then helps bring your pH back up. I think that's the same reason that they use it for, like, I think some of the like African cichlid tanks, they use aragonite as well to help control pH.
Did you have like low pH and then you're saying it's just like dissolving and your result is you have excess alk, but your pH is steady? I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
Yeah, well, I think the idea too is, I think I saw Zach type something about anoxic zones, which is something that happens in a lot of tanks, right? Where you have those zones with just low pH. One thing I'll say is, like, I know I posted a little video of this probably a month or so ago in the Discord where, like, some of the parts of my rock, like if I like shoot in there with a pipette or something, like it'll blow out this cloud of really fine dust, right? Which pretty much everybody that responded to me was saying that basically that's that's all just like fish shit and stuff like that that is just built up in there. I don't know. To me, it looks like clouded, dissolved rock. But I also can't argue with any of those people that said it was all just fish poop.
I just blasted my tank last night cleaning, and there was a bunch of white shit that kicked up that looked like dissolved rock, but it was just.
Man, I can do that once a day.
Yeah, and so I mean, I can't say that that's anything, but every time I see that happen, I'm like, okay. I mean, it's coming from like deep inside the rock, so it's not like it's just sitting on the surface. Like it's basically, there's all these little holes in the rock, and I'll shoot a jet of water in there, and then out the other side of the rock comes this cloud of white.
Well, I would think if your rock is dissolving, you could go in there and it would be like those bricks that Ron had that started dissolving. It'd be mushy. Yeah. Like you could just crumble your rock.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. The point is that I have no idea what's happening in there, and
is your rock soft? I mean, is it starting to crumble?
No, it looks like it did for the most part the day that I put it in there, other than it's covered in algae and stuff. So I mean, it doesn't look like it's falling apart or anything.
I like your scape. I think it looks cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. I wish, I haven't, like, obviously I haven't taken any of the rock out to like see if it's getting weak. If I was to try and break it, would it just break in half or anything? But the amount that I see come out of there feels to me like more than just fish poop, but I could absolutely be wrong.
We're gonna get you a GoFundMe for the ICP test.
Oh geez,
save my coral. Save my coral.
Fuck the ICP. GoFundMe for a new system.
I'll say if we're gonna if we're gonna go to GoFundMe, then let's just go for it.
100%. Just fill
your house
with water.
By lightning.
What ICP company are you going to use?
I would probably go with Reef Lab. Whether it was marketing or this guy's genuine approach. When I listened to the guy that runs that place on Reef Bum, I really appreciated his approach. That's the only reason that I have to have that opinion. So
I've used ATI a few times in the past and was satisfied.
Okay.
I think I used ICP analysis once. I think it was just dirt cheap at my local fish store, something like that. I don't recall being very, very impressed by that one. I like the website of ATI better, but it all seems just about the same.
I know you can buy the ICP analysis ones on Amazon. I think you can get their basic test for like $30. So it's a little cheaper. But
yeah, I guess it just depends on what you're looking for.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know. I've never used one. So I mean, I'm looking for one that is reputable and will test hopefully for particularly heavy metals, but obviously I'd like to know if there's anything else going on in there.
I think they all pretty much publish what results you'll get, what they test for. So a little bit of homework, I'm sure you'll figure out which ones got the stuff you want to test for.
Sure.
Yeah, it'll be really.
I haven't done one in years though. I've just lost interest in them.
I only send one away if shit's hitting the fan, or if I think, well, I've tested everything I can physically test, but there's still something not going right. Then it's ICP.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's exactly where I feel like I'm at. I have no idea what's going wrong with it, and I've tested everything I can test. Tells me it should be fine. So I don't really understand.
Do you run carbon?
As of a week ago, yes.
So you thought it was heavy metals, and it took you this long to add some carbon? I'm just kidding.
No, I've also run some polyfilter from time to time, and none of it ever seems to make a difference, or at least I need to run it for a really long time to make a difference. The polyfilter should change colors in the presence of copper, right? Yeah, it always comes out like tan brown for me, which is just nutrients. Okay, that's good to know. But sometimes it also looks like it has a different tinge of a color to it, right? I mean, like, I think that's part of what I struggle with polyfilter, at least, is like it's always going to pull out nutrients. So you're always going to pull out a brown sponge that might have another tint of a color to it.
So if you suspect it's heavy metals, is there any kind of product? Is there a downside to adding something like a metal absorber, like a Coopersorb or whatever, if it's not actually heavy metals? Like, what's if you treat for it and it's not the cause, what's the side effect?
I think the biggest reason I haven't done that is if I add Coopersorb or a different metal absorber, how do I know that it was the issue or wasn't? Like, is it going to turn around fast enough to be able to confidently say, okay, heavy metals was the problem? Or am I just going to sit there and look at things like, okay, maybe they're getting a little better, maybe they're not. Like, I'd rather take the action of putting the metal absorber in after knowing that metal is a problem. Otherwise, I feel like I might lose the ability to actually diagnose it as the problem.
And with that size tank, have you done any complete water changes?
I did a 16-gallon a week 2 weeks ago. I mean, if you're saying, have I done like drain it down to the sand and replace all the, no, I've never done that. I try to keep it consistent with 5 gallons every week. And then 2 weeks ago, like I said, just because I thought it might help turn it around, I did a 16-gallon change.
Gotcha. Just curious. I mean, it's a small enough size where if you thought a few massive water changes would help, it's manageable to do basically like 90% of the volume.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, I do feel like after I did the 16-gallon water change, like my one little acropora that I have in here, I hadn't really seen its polyps hardly at all in probably a month and a half. And the day after the 16-gallon water change, it had its polyps out. So something about changing that much water made a big difference for some of these coral, but it feels like it was like whatever's in there that it doesn't like, it reduced it just enough to make them a little bit happier. And because the only reason that I think it's heavy metals is because I have no idea what else it could be. I mean, everything else that I can look at seems to be fine.
And has this been the same batch of salt? Obviously, you have a smaller system, so your salt's gonna, go the distance. Is this the same batch of salt? It's been in there since you started having the issues?
No. So I changed salt shortly after I set this tank up. I was using Aquavitro Salinity and didn't like it. It's a pain in the ass to mix. So I changed over to Fritz RPM Blue. And first purchase of that was one of the 5-gallon bucket sizes. I went through all of that, and then I bought the box of 4 bags. I just finished that box of 4 bags and ordered a new box of 4 bags. So I'm on my 3rd batch of Fritz effectively for trying to keep this tank.
And how do you check your salinity with just a refractometer?
Yeah, I have a BRS refractometer with the LED bulb in it, and I calibrate it every time I use it with 2 little fishies, whatever it's called, their calibration water.
Have you ever tried calibrating it just with RO?
Nope. I didn't even know
What
that was a
about
thing, to be honest with you.
what about potassium?
I have no idea.
Because Fritz is elevated in potassium. Fritz is like 420, I think it is, potassium. So I don't know if you're dosing potassium at all.
No, I'm not dosing anything.
Oh, okay.
What about a rip clean? Take everything out, wash it under tap water, scrub your sand until it sparkles.
Is that Brandon?
Okay.
Was that Brandon that said
Oh,
that?
you got it.
Did you? Is Brandon here? What the hell?
A rip clean.
Yeah.
I wasn't in any of that. I don't even know who that was. I mean, I remember everybody talking about it.
Brandon 429 on Reef Reef.
Yeah.
It's a solution for everything. Rinse it in tap water until the water's clear.
I was looking up dinos earlier. He came up talking about doing a rip clean for dinos. I fucking about spat my coffee out.
Start the damn thing every time. Basically. It's fantastic.
I think we're all just throwing darts with our offhand. I mean,
100%.
Yep.
Somebody said copper an hour ago, and we're still talking about it.
Well,
I think one of your kids threw a fish finger in there.
All right, I dealt with high zinc about 6 or 8 months ago, where I was dosing off a reef and then dosing on top of it, and I suspected it was heavy metals. So what I did was I did an ICP test, took the sample for the ICP test, and then went and got Brightwell Pureit, ran Brightwell Pureit while I was waiting for the results, and then of course that test came back with like through the roof zinc. So then I ordered another test after 2 weeks, and it went down. Then a shit ton of water changes, and a couple ICP tests, and I was back on track again. But I lost a lot of coral. I'm sorry.
What was the source of the zinc?
I was dosing traces A and K on top of dosing Alpha Reef.
Oh, okay.
And with the amount of coralline algae, I overdosed my trace element. This is what I believe after going. It took me months to kind of narrow this down, but I stripped the whole system down, replaced the whole sump, replaced parts, looked for screws, looked for rusty magnets, looked for all kinds of different stuff. And then until I quit, when I quit dosing the off reef and just brought it back down to the bare minimum, then everything started coming back around again.
Okay.
But it was like it was like 6 months of just every day waking up, losing coral.
Alex had the same problem. That's why his tanks are still kind of struggling. What he was talking about yesterday was when he reset those plywood tanks up in his fish room, he used some travertine tile on the bottom to try and protect the pond liner, and it leached zinc into his tanks.
Oh, wow.
Jim, is that a dog shit in the floor behind you?
Might be.
I think it's a dog shit.
Time to clean up. Tried to clean my fish tank yesterday. Tried to get calcium up. Didn't pick up the fucking dog shit this morning. We got one dog that when it's not feeling well, it comes down here to go to the bathroom. I don't know what the fuck his problem is.
Does anyone else, every time they hear heavy metal, think of the cartoon and the Sammy Hagar song?
I think of not watching Harry Potter.
What? Because you're so damn heavy metal, you can't
I'm
watch Harry
so
Potter.
Heavy metal. I can't watch
Oh,
Harry
this is
Potter.
Ron.
No.
Too heavy metal.
No.
No.
All you need is a plunk tank.
Don't do it. Don't do it. I just dumped 400 milliliters of calcium in my tank. I fucking did. You're fucking right.
Ron, you need that soundbite for Jim.
Which one?
Don't put that in your tank.
Oh yeah, I've not got that one yet.
Dude, don't put it in your tank. I did.
It's the same
I found out what my
thing.
problem was. I fucked up. I must have. I changed my doser to dose once a day instead of every day. So for the last week and a half, I didn't dose calcium.
Wait, dose once a day from every day or every hour?
I dosed instead of my doser being set on 7 days a week, it was set to 1 day a week.
Oh fuck.
So I missed 200 milliliters times 6.
Jeez.
I dosed 200 milliliters a day of calcium. So I missed six doses.
You got a hydros, you never have that issue. That would solve all your problems.
Yep.
Yeah, but your 200 mils is way more concentrated in calcium than David's 400 mils of whatever that balling part A.
Well, yeah, I don't know because my 250 gallons of tank water went from 380 to 320 in the week, missing 1,200 milliliters. So
Good catch, by the way.
So I just dumped a bunch in and set my doser to dose double for the next 2 days. And then I'll see where it's at and scale it back. Brian, what kind of lights you got on those tanks?
So yeah, this one has two Kessel A160 blues that are mounted underneath these like cabinet shelves that I made. And this one over here has a aqua illumination, whatever you call that thing. I can't even remember the name of the damn thing.
Prime.
Prime. Yeah, it's the Prime. It's not the 16. It's the one with 13 diodes.
Oh, I see you've got the wee bonsai Lego kit up there.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, I got that as well.
I made it as far as setting up the trunk, and I haven't done shit else with it.
Yeah, I see that. You've not got to the branches.
Yeah.
Ron's noticing everybody's backdrops today.
When was the last time you watered it?
The Lego bonsai? Not even once. Well, I have a plant shelf over here that we're not going to look at because everything on it is dying, and I don't want Ron to hate me forever.
Come on,
Never
show
gonna
us.
happen, Brian. Never.
Show us.
There it is. Okay, like,
come on, let's see if that's cool. What was that?
It's a shelf. So yeah, set it up on a window so they could get sunlight. Problem is, I never
cool.
water them, so they just die.
The Sansevieria is doing absolutely fine. It looks perfectly healthy.
Well, that prayer plant sure as shit isn't.
Nope.
It's dead.
I could do with a few prayers, I think. Fuck me. Get that in the bin with that fucking tank.
Yeah, I need to empty it out. Life's busy. I don't fucking care.
Yeah, so is this an all-in-one, by the way? Take it there's no sump.
Yeah, no, both of these are all in one.
Oh.
Where were you at the beginning of this, Ron?
Sorry, I was too busy fucking around with sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
you don't remember him gluing it all back together himself?
All right. So yeah, I've got underneath here in my little cabinet, I've got all these my little controller stuff. I have a little cheapy.
You got a fucking computer down there?
It looks like it, doesn't it? Yeah, it's just a cheapy microscope. It doesn't look like it. It looks way fancier than it is.
It's cool.
Yeah, so I've got the little Kessel light controller down here. These are return pump controller. I've got one of these little J-Bow pumps. That's for a Nero 3. It's lights, heater controller, auto tap off. And then I love this Casa power strip. I have one on this tank, and I have one on the 20 gallon as well. A little auto tap off reservoir. So yeah, everything's under here contained.
Cool.
Imagine having a tank where you only needed like a 2-gallon top off.
Yeah, I actually need a bigger one on that because I have to refill that thing way more than I would like to right now. And we're heading into winter, which means it's only going to get worse.
Does that mean that you're making top off water like fairly frequently to fill that back up, or do you have like a vat?
I have these two little storage containers for water that I fill up, but I'm having to make a lot more water than I need more storage of water because I have to make water more often than I would like to right now. Because I can only store, that's basically, both those are 5 gallons, so I can store 10 gallons. I'm doing a 8-gallon water change a week, which only leaves me with 2 gallons left over for water changes. So I'm making water way more often than I'd like to right now. So then on this tank for equipment, I've got it all on the side here underneath. I've got auto top off on there, J-Bow return pump, heater controller, and then I just have a little CJ power head in there. It's the littlest one they make. But this tank, I mean, I've really been impressed with this thing. It's got like that CJ power head. I don't know if you can see it in the video very well, but it's pretty much covered in coralline already. We're getting close to it, and like the rocks got coral popping up all over the place, and it's only been up for
should you not
4 months.
transfer all of the corals from your tank that's struggling right now into that for now?
Yeah, I guess you're probably right. I mean, it's one of those situations, I think, where I keep telling myself, no, I'm going to figure it out any day here now. And then here we are, like a year later, into me figuring out the next day. So yeah, you're probably right. I should probably move all my LPS in here. I'm not going to touch the SPS because they're too hard to move. But I absolutely probably should get all of my LPS out of here and move them into the other tank.
Yeah,
maybe that's what I'll do today.
Yeah, I would get on that.
Stop making so much damn sense, Ron.
It doesn't happen very often.
And yeah, I've been on so to be honest, this tank is my fucking arch nemesis. I hate the ever loving crap out of this tank. I've not liked it since I bought it, and it's nearly impossible for me to get the flow right in. I can not recommend this tank to anybody, like just the size, the shape of it. Maybe some people have better luck with them, but they do not suit my approach at all.
Do you have anything positive to say about it?
I think it's really well made. Honestly, I don't like the size and shape of it, but I think that it's an innovative marine, and I think that it's extremely well made. I would absolutely buy another tank, just never in this shape.
You should sell it and then do like a little DIY setup there. A little sump down below. Be sick.
Yeah, I don't want to fuck around with sumps yet. I will someday, preferably not in this house.
I
like the all-in-ones.
Having a tank without a sump. Actually, I almost love my sumps as much as my tank. All that space and yeah, love my sumps.
And I've never had one, so I don't know what I'm missing. I don't know. Maybe I'll get lucky and win one of those like Thanksgiving tanks from saltwateraquarium.com, and then I can just literally yeet this fucking thing out the window.
How wide is that tank?
It is just under 3 feet. But like it's only like 10 inches in the display area front to back. It's tiny. So trying to get water moving in a way that makes sense in this long, skinny chamber, for me at least, has been extremely difficult.
Okay, that has been really, really misleading up until you just did that. So yeah. Can you go to the side for me? Oh shit! Right, okay.
Yeah, it is not the size that it looks like it is.
That's a massive back chamber, though.
Yeah, it's huge. It's basically a sump. I mean, yeah, because you've got these two chambers on both sides, right? And then the one big return chamber in the middle. So it's kind of, I mean, it's kind of like a sump, but it's not. It's also not a sump.
That's bonkers. It looks so much deeper front to back from that you're at right now.
Well, and I don't know, not that I can really give myself credit for this, but I think that's to some extent the scape. I mean, it's really hard to even fit the scape in here. It's like I've spent forever arranging these rocks in a way where it looks like it has some depth.
I think you've done an incredible job with it. I know it's a complete and utter pain in the dick for you, but
yeah.
I think
it's a really good looking, complete and total shit show. Thank you, Ron.
It's a beautiful piece of shit, though. It's beautiful. I think you've done an incredible job. I love the cabinet it's on. I like how you've mounted the lights. I think there's a lot of things going for it. It's just a shame it's a shit show and it's not doing very well.
Yeah.
So how does that tank work then? Is that Weir's top left and top right, and then the returns come through?
Yeah. So you got overflow teeth on the left and right. And then the biggest reason I think I hate this tank is because of where they have the return lines mounted. I would have rather seen them put an overflow in the middle, like take both of those, put them together in the middle, and then put the return lines on the outer corners. Because with where they are, kind of dumps a shitload of water in a way that makes no sense. And because the front to back is so short on it, it just turns into this really wicked front to back gyre inside the tank, which just means that all your corals get blown towards the back of the tank.
Is that RFGs you've got in your returns?
Yes. Those made the biggest difference of anything that I did to try and get the flow less just straight front to back gyre.
I've always thought about getting a couple of them for my reefer.
After using them, I would absolutely recommend them. This one has the little 2-piece 1/4-inch line on it, and I've really been happy with them. They just disperse the flow enough to not just keep it all flowing in one direction.
Oh, there's a win. There we go. We're getting there. Right, more positives.
Oh yeah, I mean, I got plenty of positives I can say. I just have to look at this tank.
Yeah, get your corals out of that big fucker and get it into the small one.
So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Do you have Cooper's Orb or anything?
I don't. I just let's see here. The only chemical medias that I have right now are carbon. I just bought some. Where is it? It's in here. Kolar Labs carbon, and then I have some. Early on in having a reef tank, I thought phosphate was like the devil, so I bought some Phosnet, which works really well, by the way. But it's basically just a GFO.
Is Phosnet like what's the other phosphate?
Phosban.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, and they're the same company. I can't remember the difference between the two, but there was a reason that I went with Phosban or Phosnet as opposed to Phosban.
Yeah, Phosban gave my silicates, and they went through the roof.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this one is just basically a straight up GFO. And like if I open it, it's basically just rust colored, right? It's definitely GFO.
Oh, yeah, the one I'm talking about is little white beads.
Yeah, and I think that's the Phosban.
I think that's the Lumina base, the one you're talking about, Ron.
Yes, it is. Oh, it's Fosguard, it's called. Fosban is the two little fishies version, which is again
is it?
Like brown rusty stuff. So it's Fosguard's the one I'm thinking about. And then you get the Fosguard mixed with carbon version, which is called Sea Gel or something.
Oh, okay.
What's that in the center there? Is that the controller for the lights?
The cord? Oh no, that's just the flipper.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so originally when I set this tank up, because on the 20-gallon I had just one light on a gooseneck from Kessel. So this was the mount in between the two lights, and then the gooseneck would literally, I built this piece back here to the dimensions of the gooseneck clamp. So the gooseneck would clamp on here, and then it would gooseneck down. So it actually looked really cool. It came out from between the two cabinets on that gooseneck and came down over top the tank. But once I set it up in the 30-gallon, I added a light. So that's when I came up with this, and I just left that there because I didn't feel like taking it out. So now it just houses the flipper magnet. So, yeah.
Does anyone have any other questions for Brian with his system? This has been more of a kind of what's wrong with my tank tour as opposed to a tank tour.
Well, when all you have is coral that don't look good, that's about all you get. So,
well, I hope you've got some ideas from this. It's been a really good chat.
I mean, it's at least been reaffirming that like what I'm thinking is not completely off the beaten path, right? Because that's kind of what I've been leaning towards. Is I don't really know what else to look at other than either heavy metals or like organics that aren't testable. Those are really the only two options I have, because everything else I can look at seems to be fine.
Your organics would settle in, like with this amount of time, things would wash out and things would stabilize. It's not. There's something in there.
Oh, good. I appreciate that because like I felt crazy for thinking that there's something in this tank that's just fucked up.
It's got. I mean, where did you get your rock? What did you say? Where did you get your rocks? Something's leaching. I would really just. I would save your money. Don't do anything else. Don't buy carbon. Don't buy a ICP, and stop beating your head against the wall, and see what you find out.
Okay. Yeah, I mean the rock. So some of the rock is life rock from what do they call that place?
Carib Sea?
Yep, that's it, Carib Sea. And then the other stuff is just like the generic dry rock that I bought at the local fish store when I bought the 20-gallon that I originally had set up.
Yeah, that should be okay. That should be okay.
So what is generic dry rock? Sorry, what do you mean? But is that Marco rock?
I have no idea what brand it was. It's just the stuff that they put on the shelf at the store.
Okay, so just beige, artificial rock, man-made.
Just yep, just white. Started out white as can be. So like that's what this piece here is, just that rock, and then basically this structure here in the middle and this structure over here are all made out of that Carib Sea life rock. Yeah, I mean, I've tried to be really careful about everything that goes in here, and everything are things that are supposed to be in a reef tank. So I have no idea what else could be going wrong with it all.
I do everything perfect too. I just wash my glass with Windex. Don't do that, by the way.
Yeah, I won't. Don't worry.
You're
ammonia
sausage.
I'm really curious to see the results of ICP and kind of what happens when you start bringing that elk down and your nutrients up a little bit. Definitely keep it posted, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I promise you, I'm going to make a lot of noise if this thing ever starts to look not like shit.
Oh, that's a triumph if you can get that thing fixed. I feel good about it. Learn a lot through the process.
And that's, I mean, if nothing else, I've learned a shitload about how to keep a reef tank through all this. So if I, like this one over here feels easy as shit because I'm like, literally all I do is put water in the damn thing and feed the fish. Like, oh, this is probably how it's supposed to be. So yeah, I mean, I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate not feeling like I'm crazy. So
no, like Jim said, I think ICP, take it from there, throw it in the yard, move on. I would definitely get what good corals you've got in that tank at the moment into your other tank. They're doing great. So yeah, that's a no-brainer.
And if you do take a hammer to it, please videotape it for us.
I will.
So
and chances are, when this tank comes down, it's not getting sold to anybody else. I don't want anybody else to ever fucking deal with this shit. So it's probably going to go into a dumpster, broken into 1,000 pieces.
Well, your fish look good. Like if it was a fish-only tank, it would be just fine.
That's true. I mean, and I could keep it, and I suppose run it as a quarantine tank or something down the road.
Get a trigger or get something. Get a little.
Stick it in that cabinet and use it as a sump for your bigger new tank.
No,
I
don't put any water through it.
So for the next tank, in that same deal that I did for the $400 for all that guy's stuff, I got it's like a 3-foot long sump made. It's fully acrylic. It's really, really nice. It's like red and white. It looks fancy as shit. So I'm ready. Someday there's going to be a nice fish tank that happens.
Plumb that big old sump into that tiny little cube.
Dude, that would be awesome.
Dude, if that guy ran copper through that tank and fucked up that tank, I would worry about the dude selling the different systems. The sump came from a different system.
Right. It came from a different. That was the guy that I worked with. I bought the piece of shit tank came from just a guy on Marketplace.
Okay.
The other stuff all came from a guy I worked with.
Okay, guys. Well, let's call that a wrap. Thank you so much, Brian, for giving us a tour. Let's hope
thank you.
the next tour will A, be more positive, and B, be a new tank.
Yeah, right. We can hope.
It's exciting.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do so.
Thanks a lot, Brian.
Thanks, Zach.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Brian.